have every year, as you know, we have our competitive application cycle. We invite nonprofits to apply through the Community Development Fund. But in addition to some of those programs that we fund competitively, we have some non-competitive programs that we also provide funding to. Most of them are internal county programs. There's one that is external program. And so we invite those programs early in the year to come talk about, what they've been doing, what they're working on, what they're planning for the next year. And one of those folks is Jorge Lara, who is our housing outreach program coordinator. And he's here to talk a little bit about what our housing outreach program has been doing. And I'm going to pull up your presentation and I'm going to hand it over to you while I get that pulled up for you.
Great. Okay, well, happy New Year, everyone. I see new faces here. This is probably my, 25 years coming, 24, 25th year coming here. So thank you so much for your time. My name is Jorge Lara. Again, I'm the Housing Outreach Coordinator for the low and moderate income HUD designated areas. When I started, they used to be called neighborhood services area, then focus areas, and then changed to HUD designated. HUD is the Housing and Urban Development. And I expanded that wherever we have committed affordable units and wherever we have marked. For example, we have some committed affordable units in Crystal City, where you have all these new areas. So I go and stop by and visit apartment complex. But the main areas that I work with is Green Valley, Buckingham, Columbia Heights West, which is now Arlington Mill, and a small area called Pike Village Center, which is nothing but Douglas Park carved out around Barcroft. And in the past, I've been working in neighborhood like Long Branch Creek. But in 2 years, I was able to bring it up to the level. So my work is not just in apartment complexes, it's mainly in areas. So try to make sure that these areas become vibrant and sustainable. That's one of the goals of my program. Actually, it supports the Affordable Housing Master Plan and the Consolidated Plan. So thank you for the opportunity here to share what I told you guys last year I was going to be doing for FY24, what I'm doing right now in FY25, and what I will be doing in FY26 if I decide to stay. And those are my goals. Those are my objectives. You can look at it in there, pretty quick. So next slide, please. See if I were here. So throughout the FY24, which is July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024, I have my program have referred about 400 clients to county agencies, nonprofits. I included 26 outreach hours to tenant at community centers. I don't want to brag, but I believe I was one of the first one who went to where the people are. And that's where they were receiving the food. And now everybody goes over there because there is a lot of people that you can outreach to them. When AFAC gives the food, and AFAC is not the only one. There is different churches and other people that bring food to people. So those are the perfect area where you can go and talk to these residents on that neighborhood where I work, mainly Buckingham and Arlington Mill. And we have in Green Valley, we have Our Lady Queen of Peace. On Wednesday, there's about 500 people that go there, believe it or not. So we provided technical assistance to about 109 people. I stopped by 21 apartment complexes, 2 nonprofit offices. I talked to the managers during these visits. I give advice to the managers about fair housing and pest control, what I call it IPM, Integrated Pest Management Control, and whatever they want to talk. And I don't schedule the visits. I just stop by. And it's like if you've been in one of these apartment complexes, like the Sedona here in Roslyn, when you walk into the lobby, it looks like a 5-star hotel. It's so beautiful, so nice. and then you had the concierge there. So I stopped by and I said, listen, do you know about committed affordable unit? Sometimes they don't know. That's a perfect opportunity. I bring the poster and all of that. Then I bring support to the housing division staff and other partner county programs in translation, housing counseling. Sometimes there are people in my office who respond to the calls, and sometimes there is issues that they think I might know more about it, so they refer it to me. When in the community center, usually the people that work with the Department of Human Services for the outreach programs, they usually call me first. They don't call the 3765, which is the housing for. They always call me. They send their clients to me. So it's fine. I've been doing that for so many years. I update brochures like the home repairs maintenance, bed bug brochures, apartment care and maintenance. And from time to time, I do brochures when we do events. So I'll give you an example. For this is one that I created. Many people don't know that Arlington County, the webpage, they have a new resident welcome kit and a request service. So I'm going to pass it along. When you get it done, now just give it to your whoever you want to know. So things like this. And if you can see on that, I cannot work without these nonprofits. These nonprofits are very helpful for my program. We have Legal Services Northern Virginia. We have LEDC, Equal Rights Center is one of the last one. One of my last partners is Committed Center for Assistance with Families, CAF. We've been doing events with them. Ugara is another one, and so like that. On seminars and events, I help organize about 30 education seminars attended by 498 residents. In April of last year, I did what I told you I was going to do, the working with the Center for Assistant Families. We did a Live in Arlington Information Fair, where we have close to 200 people. We did 10 home buying and maintenance seminars, well received by the people. In October of, I made a mistake there. No, that's fine. October 23, I work with the nonprofit AstraCorp. I bring back the home maintenance workshops. That was for new home buyers and homeowners. I also provide outreach at 9 community events organized by civic association, public schools, CPSD partners, something like the Tidal Hills Park event. We have the Green Valley events, the Nova Expo, which is around the location, Fairfax, throughout. We go over there and talk about sometimes about rental opportunities in Arlington County and etc. Next slide, please. So pictures tell you the whole thing. On the left side, you will see the live event. We have 10 wonderful workshops. On the all to the right, you see the home maintenance workshop that we had. The cleanups, I forgot to mention it. Every year we do a neighborhood cleanup for Green Valley and Arlington Mill. Sometimes there are another neighborhood that want to do a cleanup for them, like we have Arlington View. But what we pick up on those neighborhoods is like 1 ton. In Columbia, in Arlington Mill, we pick up more than Green Valley. And Green Valley is a huge neighborhood. And in Green Valley, sometimes we get 11, and in Arlington Mill, we get 12 tons of trash. I mean, the day before is people walk by because sometimes they throw away good things, stores and things like that. So it's an expected time that people wanted to see it every year. On the bottom, you see the tenant education workshops, and on the left, you see all these events that we do every year. Next slide, please. So for FY25, this is the current year, what is going on right now. So in the last 6 months, we organized 13 seminars attended by 161 residents. We provided 12 hours of outreach in community centers. I have talked to 9 apartment managers and 3 housing services providers. One was the CAF, Ugara, and Then we have a resident coordinator from AHC at the Charles Rinker Center. So I try to tell them about how in the housing division we work. I give them a small package with information. Where can they get help? So it's very nice. We organized with the nonprofit AstraCorp the home maintenance workshop. That was in October, and it was attended by 50 residents. We participate in community events like the homeownership study, community workshop event, the Green Valley Festival, the annual community festival at Turtle Hill Park. And we were invited by the LULAC conference that was just in the beginning of July of 2024. We distributed the committed affordable units information package to 11 apartment complexes, which reached about 760 residents. And I promise in the next 6 months, I'm going to organize about 13 to 15 education seminars. I will provide 12 outreach hours to community centers. I will talk to 10 apartment managers and be part of the Green Valley Day. I already signed up for that. The same thing with the Langston Boulevard Air Day, the Nova Housing Expo. I believe it's going to be in April this year, and the Virginia Hospital, and etc. I'll coordinate the Life Y25 with CAF. That's going to be in April. And 2 cleanups. I'm going to coordinate that with environmental services. One is going to be in May, and the other one will be in June. And I might be working also on the forums this year. We've been doing the tenant landlord forums, and probably I'm going to be late June in charge of doing that too. Next slide, please, Kaylee. So having said that, well, you all are invited to April 26, 2025. Now, when I call the nonprofit working with me, usually I start doing these events, I start working in December. But here we are in almost the middle of January, and they told me, listen, last year, the person that you worked with the first time, after you worked with her doing the live last year, she went like a rocket. Now she's doing events all over, that this is going to be so easy that we can start in January doing the meetings. So hopefully it's going to be nice. Now, usually I try to propose the workshops. That's my main thing. And one of the workshops you can read it from here will be building wealth through home ownership. And I might try to do it in Spanish. I think it's a good topic for the time. You know, people don't realize that wealth through home ownership is like a forced way to make you wealth, because if you buy your house and just keep it for 30 years, when you retire, you got a lot of money equity in there, you know. So it's forced wealth that it's like a piggy bank, you know. So that is set for me for that 25, and on 26, in April, I'm going to be doing the live event again. In this coming October, the home maintenance workshops, I might do some changes there, neighborhood cleanups, housing forums, and it will be another exciting time to get and engage with the people, bring that education, and especially get these hard to reach people, you know, immigrants like me, you know, that they feel they are welcome in Arlington County, and this is their home too, that we get to them to bring the education, information, and referrals for they need. All right, if anybody have any questions.
She missed your last slide.
Oh, yeah, that's it, that's it.
I was just caught up in what you're saying.
Yeah, that's it. Next slide. And
That's a question. First of all, it's an awful lot. But sometimes you say I, and that's obvious when you're doing something, and sometimes you say we.
yes.
What resources do you pull on when it's we?
Exactly. The program, I'm the outreach coordinator, and in my office, I'm glad that we have such a wonderful staff that is always, when I need their help, they're willing to come with me. So then I call it we. It's like, for example, we have Odalis, we have Hector with a role that even Kaylin at one time came to help me. And then we do this event and we have to go to some presentation, we go together, and then when I say we also is working with these nonprofits. I mean, we work together. So we work, it's like life. If I cannot do it without them, that event. I used to do an event, a huge event, call it the Home Show and Expo. I don't know if somebody went to that Arlington Home Show and Garden Expo. We did it for many years. It was huge event, better than the Dallas Expo, maybe, but I lost my good partner. And my good partner became, now he's the chairman of the county board, Takis Carantonis. So when I lost him, I couldn't find another nonprofit to do it, because just from the beginning, you had to put this amount of money, which is high. So some people see it risky, but that's why I call it sometimes I and some call it we. The same thing with OAR. When I need volunteers, they are so helpful. I mean, they send good people to help me. I need 13 volunteers. I need 10 volunteers. So that's what I call it we. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
You said you hear from different residents, they're not aware of resources. What are the common gaps in knowledge you see? Or like, what are the common resources you're pushing residents to?
Well, it depends on the common resources in the areas that you will be looking at. That's why we going along with the housing and urban development has said these areas need more help. I work on those areas because we have sometimes, it used to be more transient, the tenants and people that move all the time, not only in apartment complexes, but in duplexes like Arlington Mill. So you have to frame your message in a different way. What is going on in that neighborhood? I'm not going to do the same thing, let's say, in Westover. Westover, I used to go over there, but it's more quiet. It's more kind of more upscale now. The small mom and pop apartment that used to be there, they're gone. Now they fix it. We did give them notice of violation. For some of you that don't know, this program used to be outreach and inspection for 15 years. So we used to do the inspections for 15 years too. I was the inspector for 5 years, and then I became the coordinator of outreach and inspections. And we kind of, I'm not gonna say clean it up, but bring the carrots and the stick, the information, and then you better fix it. But what I found is that the new generation of managers that work in the apartment complexes are very receptive. It's not like what I call like me, the old-fashioned guys. I used to go into these apartment complexes, and they used to look at me and they say, "What do you want? You're from the country. You're gonna waste my time." But the here, they throw me away sometimes. So it's a different now. They're more professional, especially in this area. So it depends, So we tailor what the message I'm gonna bring, and that's why I go to where the people are. When they are getting the food, I go and mingle with them, talk to them, what's going on, what's happening, what is going on, and they tell me more than people would tell you anywhere.
I think Jennifer comment or question too.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to put in a plug for Jorge and say we really appreciate he works closely with the housing division, as he mentioned, and he really is our eyes and ears in the community because many of us spend more time sitting in an office than we'd probably like. So Jorge is out meeting with community, meeting with landlords, meeting with tenants. So we really get really good information from him about what some of the issues are. So whoever asked that question, thank you. He's a huge resource for that.
I like hearing that you said it used to be inspection and outreach, and then they kind of split that out because inspection is kind of reactive, right? If something goes wrong and then you go in and check on it and write up the report, as opposed to outreach, which is kind of, it sounds like what you do is so much about getting out in front of it and getting people the information they need so that they can avoid some of the problems moving forward. So I like to hear that. That's pretty cool. It's also interesting. It sounds like you're very much covering both rental housing, home ownership, single family apartment buildings, and kind of the whole gamut, which seems unusual to me. You don't most programs kind of focus here or there, not.
Well, sometimes if you are an inspector, you are, how can I say it? You don't see that because it's not your sometimes if you tell these other department, they say, well, that's not your area. Let's say if I'm a code enforcement inspector, I see a tree that is in the middle of the street or whatever, it's not your problem sometimes, but in my areas, that's different. Those are my areas. I want the people to especially lobby more for being sustainable, like asking for better roads. If I see a road that needs work, I go and talk to the guys in environmental services. And I don't have to go through all the channels because I know them. I just go to the office, I talk to them like I'm talking to you. Oh yeah, George, we're gonna send somebody, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And I don't make a lot of fuss, it's so simple. You just get it, because they know you. They just go like, if they know that if they don't do it, I will go to maybe their supervisor. And I know some of them because I start working with some of the supervisors that work with me, and then they become escalated, and they are now in big positions. So it helps.
Well, question, and it seems almost an unfair question, but if anybody in the county would be able to answer it, it'd be you. About outcomes. One of the things we always struggle with year after year when programs come in seeking funding and they say, well, we're going to do 10 seminars. But then the question is, well, what is the outcome of you doing those seminars? And that's a very difficult thing to sort of try to quantitate. Have you made any inroads in trying to figure out how to quantitate the benefits of those outreach efforts?
Sure. Let's say at the end of the year, usually I've been doing workshops about fire safety, and I put flyers all over. And look, there is not many fires in Arlington County, in the apartment complex, in the areas at least where I work. People, for example, Arlington Mill, for many years, they have all these chimneys. They were metal chimneys and holes on there. If they don't fix it, what's going to happen? They can do a backdraft, and then they can get killed by carbon monoxide, So there has not been any problems, things like that, is how I quantify. But I do my reports. I do reports, and I every month I'd say how many people I talk to, blah blah blah, and all of that. So even there since for 24 years. So one of the best ways would be for you to drive through Green Valley, through Arlington Mill, and see what's going on. Most of the apartments are moving in those areas. We're putting new. So it's completely different than when this program, when I started in the year 2000, believe it or not. So, and at one time, I was invited to be the part of the 100 homeless. What is it called? That 100. Yeah. The 100 homeless, whatever it is, and then at that time, that was about 10 years ago. And I hope they don't kill me for this. And I asked them, how many homeless people we have here? It's a group of people that try to promote homelessness, and they told me back in those days, 450. And what you want to do? They want to advertise, they want to put a lot. I said, what you want? People from Maryland, from DC to come here because we are doing such a good job doing homelessness, so let's keep quiet. Let's keep let's keep doing the work and just keep it quiet, so, and I had to leave them because they want to do things different, but they're doing a good job. The homeless population right now, we have Reginette Osby and all of them. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
It's a tough question. It's
Anybody? No. All right. Well, you all have a
Thank you.
safe day, and
Thanks
you're doing the best for the county. I believe this program is CDBG continue for another 50 years more.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Sorry.
Next, we have, let's move on to the CSBG overview. So every once in a while, we do a report of sort of where we are with CSBG and sort of other programs at this point in the year. We also wanted to kind of do a refresher on the CSBG program, the Community Services Block Grant Program, because you know, it's been a while and we have some newer members. So we figured it'd be a little bit helpful, and we're kind of in our you know, down time here. So not trying to fill up the meeting, but you know, kind of. So Jennifer is gonna Jennifer is going to do that CSBG overview and give you a quick report of where we are. So Jennifer.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to be less fun than Jorge, but I'll try. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Ah, there we go. Okay, now you're in the middle of it. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my computer is deciding to be, okay, here we go. So as Caitlin said, we wanted to give an overview of community services, block grant, community action. So as Caitlin is the person who knows all things CDBG, Rolda is really the person who knows all things CSBG. So she manages this program, but she also is the liaison to the Tenant Landlord Commission in their meeting tonight. So I'm going to try to cover what I can. But just quick overview, what is community action? In 1964, the Economic Opportunity Act was signed into law. Those of you who were around in 1964, I'm sure you remember this, as a key tool in the war on poverty. And one of the things that this law did was it created community action agencies. And it was a pretty novel idea at the time. They were mostly nonprofit organizations. And the idea was that people in communities can figure out their own solutions to issues, and low-income individuals really can best identify the issues that they face and develop solutions. So it's grown since then. There are currently more than 1,000 community action agencies throughout the country that serve communities in 99% of American counties. So I like quizzes because I'm goofy that way. So we're going to see what you all know. What do community action agencies do? Do they focus on housing, employment, social services, or all of the above?
All of the above.
Yes, and my animation didn't work. It was supposed to zip in and say that. But yes, community action agencies are really able to be very flexible in meeting the needs of their communities. So they do all of these things and more, really depending on what the needs of their communities are and what they've identified. How long has Arlington County been a community action agency?
B.
C.
I go for B.
That's what I vote for.
Actually, D, 2006. So remember I mentioned that they were originally started mostly as nonprofit organizations. So there was a nonprofit, the Arlington Community Action Program, ACAP, that was a community action program for years and closed down in 2006. So the state that administers the program reached out to Arlington County and asked if we would be willing to take that on as a community action agency. And more communities are kind of realizing that public agencies are good too, because they also really work deeply in the community. So we as the county have been the agency for almost 20 years now. All right, what does Arlington County do as a community action agency? Do we drive staff crazy with reporting requirements, provide grants to nonprofits for economic self-sufficiency efforts, or partner with community action agencies throughout the state on advocacy and education, or all of the above?
All of the above.
See, all the above are always easy. Yes. So we do all of those things, and we'll talk about all of that a little bit more. So are you guys being blocked by mini you? Or is that just me who can see that? Okay.
See that, yeah.
All right. So the mission of community action broadly is to ensure the causes and conditions of poverty are effectively addressed. So it really was designed as an anti-poverty program. The language has shifted over the years, and so now it really is more economic self-sufficiency, but it's still focusing really on the lowest income people and helping them to develop solutions to get out of poverty. And there's a promise that whenever we have like group meetings, we recite this promise. I feel like a Girl Scout, but you can read it and see it really is focused on improving communities. So our role, as I mentioned, the nonprofit closed in 2006. So we have been the community action agency for nearly 20 years. They asked us if we would do that, and we, thought about it and realized that the goals and mission really do fit in with existing community development fund and programming. So back then, the community development fund was primarily CDBG, which, as you all know, is also serving low and moderate income people, really helping with community development, and so it kind of made sense to put them together. So there are currently 31 community action agencies in Virginia, and 6 of us are known as publics, including all of Northern Virginia are public agencies.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I guess, I don't know if it's a question, but like, I had a question and then maybe you just answered it, but I was wondering how common it is for a local jurisdiction to be a community action agency. I see there are 6 of them, but I was wondering if by nature of the way Arlington is, we're small, but with a pretty high capacity, right? Like that works. So I guess I'm just curious kind of how that works. Maybe if you think that those characteristics of Arlington are why it works as a community action agency, or if it really is just some of them are public and some of them are nonprofit.
I mean, I think there's pros and cons of both. And I work pretty closely with the other agencies in the state. I mean, something we're pretty proud of is as a public agency, like 98% of the money we get goes out into the community via grants, whereas nonprofits tend to use more overhead and pay for staffing and things like that. And I feel like we have a fair amount of built-in capacity. Again, because we already manage grant programs, we're already engaged in lots of different coalitions. We already work with the Continuum of Care and, various other coalitions that already. So I feel like we're a pretty effective model. The nonprofits, on the other hand, tend to employ more of their clients, which is super cool. And they are able to do more on the kind of advocacy side than we are. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. I mean, they're able to do more kind of legislative stuff and more advocacy, whereas we're really much more service oriented. And I can get weedier if you want. I mean, even the public agencies operate differently. Some of the 6 do direct services. Like I said, ours all go out through grants. So it really depends on the individual community and the agency.
That's interesting. Thank you.
So what is CDCAC's role and why are we telling you this? So you all serve as the Community Action Agency Board. And the reason I have it in quotes is because you're not technically a board of directors in the same way that a nonprofit is. So you had advisory responsibility. You don't have, legal or fiduciary responsibility. But you're an important piece of it because you're the piece that sort of ensures community representation, makes sure that the funding and the programming is going sort of to meet the needs of the community. So there are lots of requirements. One, as I mentioned, you must have community involvement. And you all have heard this before, the tripartite board, and this is a community action requirement. So basically it means it has to include equally members of the public, low income representatives, and elected officials. So you may know who you are. Members of the public are those of you who I think you're called public interest. Low income representatives, I think most of you represent neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods that Jorge was talking about, the Buckingham's, Green Valleys. Many of you represent them through civic associations. And then elected officials are those of you who represent other commissions. So that's sort of how we break that up. So you guys are our tripartite board. We must meet organizational standards and be a good steward of funding, which I think we do a good job with. And we must be monitored every 3 years. So that's actually coming up as we speak. So that's another reason we thought it was important to kind of give you guys an overview because you'll be part of the monitoring. So there are a lot of organizational standards, and Rolda would know this. I feel like there's 9 sort of main categories and like 50 some subcategories. So there are a lot of standards that we need to meet. I won't read them all, but you can see sort of all of these things we're measured against, and we need to report on how we're meeting or exceeding all of these standards, ranging from community input to, board structure, organizational leadership, operations, all that stuff. And I can get more in the weeds if anybody cares, but it's a lot. So why is there a benefit to being a community action agency? Well, as I've alluded to, the money. So we actually receive about $340,000 each year. And that comes both from the feds. So that's the Federal Community Services Block Grant, but also we're allocated funding through the state Temporary Assistance for Needy Families funding. It's about a little more federal, so about half and half. And as I mentioned, we deploy that through the Community Development Fund for programs specifically related to job training, health, and education. The eligibility requirements are a little bit different than CDBG, but we kind of focus on those areas for the CSBG funding. Another benefit, as I mentioned, is it's a great network. So I'm technically the executive director of the Community Action Agency. So I meet with my 30 counterparts around the state pretty regularly to learn from other communities and learn about different resources. And it's really interesting. Like Northern Virginia, as we know, is really different than the rest of the state. But it's really cool to learn about sort of similar solutions, similar problems. So that's a really good benefit. Advocacy, we have a really strong statewide network. So we as a government agency don't tend to do this, but some of the nonprofits as well as the umbrella agency do a lot with legislative advocacy, both around funding, but also around programming. So they've really pushed for some kind of interesting new programs, new policies at the state level. Also, we get great technical assistance, and that includes technical assistance to the nonprofits that we work with. So we have speakers come sometimes. They really help us to focus on kind of organizational capacity. So challenges for being a community action agency is there's a lot of reporting, a lot of training, a lot of compliance. And sometimes we think, is this worth it for $340,000? But I mean, like we said, the money goes straight out to the community. So I think it is. We also struggle a bit, and those of you who are going to be involved in the monitoring will talk more about this. Public agencies, we don't and can't always meet their compliance requirements. So the 50 some odd organizational standards really were designed for nonprofits. So a lot of, for example, as our board, some of the standards that we're supposed to meet are that you all approve our budget, which is the county board's role, not your role. And so some of the standards we sort of have to tweak, and as a public agency, don't exactly meet them. So try to kind of meet them in other ways. So we have an upcoming monitoring. As I mentioned, we do this every 3 years. So that will be in February. They're coming in early February, and it includes a file review. They want to interview subrecipients. They do file review for subrecipients, so they look at eligibility files and financial reporting, all that kind of stuff. Your role is they will be coming to observe next month's meeting. So now you know all about them. And also they want to interview CDCAC members. And I know some of you we have approached, and I think some of you are able to do that, which is great. Those of you who have done it in the past, if you have any advice, that's great. There's a series of questions that they'll ask you, and we will do a prep meeting just so you'll understand what the questions are. But they really are about, kind of the organizational standards, to what extent do we meet the needs of the community, that kind of stuff. So thanks to those of you who are willing to do that. And that's it for me. Any questions?
So we pass all of that funding right to the community, so none of that's taken out for administrative support for salaries?
It's about, I think, like 2,000 a year. It's very, very.
We keep we hand out about 98% of it. The rest we keep for like training and travel for me to go to these meetings and things like that. But we're able to really move most of it out into the community.
Most of our admin is through CDBG.
Is that one of the standards of measurement that the state uses to determine the effectiveness of the agencies administering these funds?
It's not. And in fact, unlike CDBG, they don't have a cap on the use of admin funds. So some agencies use it primarily for staffing and for admin.
If the admin is covered by, I keep getting the acronyms wrong, but you have different funding sources, and your admin really comes out of one of them, but not this one. Why? I mean, I'm just curious. How do you decide where the admin's going to come from?
Well, we just have a much larger CDBG entitlement than we do CSBG, so it's a, yeah.
But not when I first started with the county 20 years ago, I think CDBG paid for like 12 staff. And because the grant is essentially decreasing and our salaries are increasing, I think it's now 3.5 of us. So it's all of Caitlin, half of me, our CDBG, Jorge CDBG, but a lot of our staff is general funded as well.
And the CDBG does cap.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's the amount that you can spend on admin. So.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Any other questions?
Well, if anybody has been interviewed by monitors. Has any?
Steve, I feel like you have, and
Did it last year.
Tim,
I don't remember.
Tim,
It was very,
Any sharing?
it was very low key. And they didn't ask anything we hadn't been prepped for. I remember the question about the tripartite nature of it. And they asked if I thought that the committee was managed well by the county, and whether I had the information I needed to make decisions. Just those softball questions. I mean, I think, particularly if you get that little briefing beforehand.
they're very nice. They're not scary.
Yeah, it was very low key and informal. Yeah, I don't remember them observing a meeting though.
I think they did come to observe a meeting, Jennifer, right? Last time? They've been a few times. I don't know if it was part of their monitoring, but they will be doing that.
It may have been a virtual meeting.
I was gonna
It
say,
might
I
have
wonder
been
if they did it
virtual.
virtually
Yeah.
because, you know, if it was little ways ago, then that might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the last, I don't know.
I believe
And
Matt,
they always come on our bus tour and stuff. I mean, we do try to give them other opportunities to kind of see what we're doing.
These are local HUD people.
no, these
No,
are.
So this is administered through the Virginia Department of Social Services, their Office of Economic Opportunity. All right.
Great. Great, so I think everyone's all ready for to say good things about it. No, they're very nice, or not. I mean, it's fine. No, they're very nice people, and should be relatively straightforward. Okay, so let's see what's next. Oh, right. Okay, so we wanted to update you on the evaluation that we want to do for the Community Development Fund. I put together just a quick PowerPoint, and just to kind of talk a little bit about what we wanted to overview with you all tonight. So let me just, actually, I should probably, you know what, I'm gonna do it on my laptop. It's easier to that way. Yeah, so we're revising our scope, or not the scope, the timeline for the evaluation slightly. And we wanted to just give you guys kind of an overview of what that is going to look like. We talked a little bit about kind of this larger sort of evaluation we want to do for the Community Development Fund. And we're stretching out the timeline a little bit for a couple reasons. And so there we go. Okay. Yeah, so as you recall, we want to try to review the Community Development Fund kind of holistically to try to create, you know, a more equitable, inclusive process, you know, create a better user experience for our applicants, making sure that we're, you know, reaching the right organizations and that folks know about us and that we're not unduly burdening any of the applicants that, you know, want to participate in our process. You know, we were wanting to look at the structure of the program sort of broadly, but also the priorities of the Community Development Fund, our application questions, the evaluation review process, kind of very holistic review. So originally we had kind of envisioned it to, you know, kind of start, you know, this next month and kind of go through June of this year, so that we were able to implement all these sweeping changes for the next application cycle. What we sort of realized as we were putting together the schedule for our consolidated plan is that a lot of these areas are likely going to be impacted by whatever comes out of the consolidated plan. So just as a quick reminder, a consolidated plan is a required HUD planning document, have to do it every 5 years. It's much more comprehensive than our annual action plans. We're looking at kind of a a needs analysis. We're doing a lot of community outreach. It involves much deeper analysis of data. And so we're envisioning being able to narrow some of our priorities for the community development fund through that process. So we thought it made sense to take a few of the scope of this evaluation that we want to do and kind of better align it with the consolidated plan to make sure that we're, that those two processes are happening concurrently. So what we're looking to do is kind of break the evaluation out into almost two phases. So the first being looking at our application structure and our review process and kind of the outreach that we do. And so this would be kind of, what the application questions we're asking, how we're reviewing applications, involvement of CDCAC, our presentation process or the Q&A sessions that we do, ranking, kind of all those elements, and kind of get a handle on how we're actually structuring the application and the review process, and then spacing out looking at the priorities and the actual overall structure of the program once we have, a draft at least of our consolidated plan, which we're envisioning will be hopefully sometimes this fall, winter. We're kind of still mapping out the plan, the outreach and sort of plan development schedule for that right now. So I wanted to just give you guys an update on that because I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, and just let you all know it's going to be a little bit different than we had originally envisioned. We're going to be implementing some changes kind of in two parts. So for the 2027 application, which will be released in July, it won't be sort of this sweeping changes that we're doing. And then the other sort of thing that kind of slowed us down a little bit is that we're also onboarding a new application management system, which is an adventure. So that's another thing that everyone's going to have to learn for our next review cycle, which is really fun for all of us. So so that's kind of what we're thinking. As far as the timeline, we're pulling together a survey right now, and we're developing some focus groups. We're hoping to do the survey later, hopefully get it out late this month, early next month. And this will be of our past applicants. And then we're also starting to think through the focus groups that we want to do with applicants as well. We're hoping to start meeting with our CDCAC subcommittee, which there are several folks who have volunteered for that. So you should be hearing from me after this meeting about setting up times to start meeting for that. And then, again, hoping to have some recommendations to share with the full committee in May and June. And then as far as phase two, again, we're looking at, the consolidated plan development is starting in earnest over the summer. We start doing all of our data collection. We're still trying to get on we're still trying to work through how we're going to do our needs analysis. That's in process right now. Once we have that figured out, we'll start all that throughout the summer. And then usually we try to have a draft sometime in the fall, early winter. And then once we have solid draft for our consolidated plan, we have our priorities for the community development block grant program, then we really think that that's a more appropriate time to start talking through the funding priorities for the community development fund. So again, this is a structure. These are the folks who have graciously volunteered to serve on our subcommittee. So thank you to everyone who has volunteered to do that. So next steps, again, hoping to start scheduling for the subcommittee. I'm going to send out a doodle poll in the next week, and then hopefully we'll start. It's supposed to say 2025, not 202. So hopefully sometime in next month, February 2025, we will start work. And I'm thinking the first thing we'll focus on is our review process. That is top of mind for a lot of folks.
One quick question.
Sure.
Maybe it's not.
Okay.
So just to clarify, so our CDBG allocation, the CDCAC just covers and the monies that we don't allocate the monies specifically, but the monies that our decision-making covers, for lack of a better description, is just a portion of Arlington County's overall CDBG allocation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the rest of it is done based on formula?
You mean as far as, so we have our annual entitlement, and so the grants are only a certain portion of that.
Correct.
How is the remainder?
Correct.
Okay, so it's a good question. So the remainder of the funding,
And
there's,
what,
and how is it spent?
proportionate, yes.
Yeah. So we, so yeah, our grants are, usually it's, say, I'm not gonna give you numbers because it changes
Yeah,
every year.
It's,
But
it's
we
good
spend,
ballpark.
we spend up to our admin cap every year.
Okay.
So that's, you know,
That's
10,
20%.
20%. Yeah.
Okay.
So we spend up to our admin cap, and we, it's a little bit of a guessing game because it also depends on how much program income we're getting.
Right.
So typically we try to spend up to our admin cap. We also, the last few years, we've been allocating the remainder, so grants, admin, and then whatever the balance is, to the moderate income purchase assistance program. That's the homeownership down payment and assistance program. And the reason for that is just that program has been growing, and it's continuing to, there's been more interest. So we, and so usually the way that budget is determined is a conversation with our homeownership program staff to see, you know, how many applications they have in their pipeline, what they're seeing as far as, you know, the market or interest rates coming down. Does it seem like, you know, the program is going to need additional funding? And generally the answer is yes. And so it's usually a conversation of what is that balance, and will the remaining funding support that budget? Oftentimes it's right up against what they think they're going to need, and oftentimes less than. And so to the last few years, it's been, you know, we've allocated a certain amount of money to the competitive grants, the admin, and then the remainder has gone to MyPath. In the past, even before that, we were sort of setting aside the funding for a future multifamily project. And then whenever one sort of came up through our multifamily NOFA that seemed like it would be a good fit for multifamily, we would say, okay, well, I think we can probably make this work for federal funds. It's getting harder and harder to do that, to make sort of these larger scale multifamily projects work with federal funding. So we like the fact that we can allocate more funding to the homeownership program. It's more of a guarantee that funding is going to be spent legally.
And Caitlin, I'm not sure if you mentioned this. So for the grants, there's a 15% cap on public service. So we spend up to the cap for the community development fund grants.
So the competitive grants are just for their public service only?
Not
Or-
entirely, mostly. So the ones that are like economic development, the rehab ones, no. So we budget for the up to 15%, and then for the other ones, we take that out first before allocating the other funds that Caitlin just mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually thinking for this next this is probably too much information, but for our next consolidated plan, we kind of need to rethink, because again, we used to have plenty of money, and now between costs going up and the grant, like essentially, well, not even essentially, actually going down, I think we're going to have to really maybe refocus on how we prioritize, and that'll be a conversation that we'll have as part of the consolidated plan.
The reason I just asked was because although we do call them competitive grants, Observationally, they're not so much. So I was just curious as to the other parts of the program.
So I'm gonna ask an awful, bureaucrat question.
Please do, yeah.
Okay, so, what steps are you taking to ensure that the consolidated plan aligns with other adopted county documents, including any strategic plans or, right, or a comprehensive plan?
So the same staff does the same stuff. So our team does the consolidated plan, we do the affordable housing master plan, we do the fair housing plan. So really all things housing and community development are the same people putting them together. So, and then we probably have documents that show this. So if you look across like goals and strategies, they tend to match closely and or at least overlap.
And
They don't have a public housing authority, so they don't have a PHA.
What's that?
Right. But those are all housing plans, right? So you're saying the housing element of a comprehensive plan? Or I'm just saying that if the county has like a strategic plan or a 5-year plan, which I should know and I don't, I'm sorry about that. How are you ensuring that the consolidated plan aligns in some way with already adopted plans that have already been adopted and approved by the commission?
So there are actually 12 elements of the county's comprehensive plan, ranging from transportation to green space to housing. And that's all managed through our planning division. And this question you're asking is actually something we've been wrestling with for years, because it's like we go do our plan and they do their plan. And so they're really trying to look at, and they're trying to kind of take that kind of an equity lens and try to figure out how to make sure that all of those 12 plans are talking to each other. I mean, I think they tend to not conflict because, again, staff works closely together, but they are kind of looking at how to make sure that we do that and how to coordinate better. So we're working on it. I guess is the answer.
But I think what Jennifer was saying before that about how, our affordable housing master plan, which is an element of the comprehensive plan, it is the same staff working on it. We also try to time sort of the needs analysis that we do to kind of inform both whenever we review the master plan, which has to be done every 5 years, with when we're doing the consolidated plan. So we're kind of using the same data analysis to inform both, which is helpful. And then the other thing is that as far as the other elements of the consolidated plan that we look at, I don't know that there are very many other plans in the county, and Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of cover those same issues. Like obviously housing is covered through the master plan, but as far as like DHS, the Department of Human Services, kind of uses the data that we collect for a lot of the things that they do, as far as preventing homelessness and stuff. So we're kind of, we do a lot. So all I'm trying to say is that, we're working with a lot of staff from other agencies, and they use the consolidated plan to inform a lot of the decisions that they're making and programs that they're working on.
But that's not to say that conflicts don't arise. I mean, certainly with like building affordable housing, sometimes historic preservation is like, no, or, stormwater. So there definitely, I mean, there are trade-offs. And I think the way the county handles that is the county board makes funding decisions and project decisions and, tries to pull from all of them. But there's no sort of magic way, I think, to ensure that we're not having conflicts in our planning processes, if that makes sense.
Any other questions?
Just about the software. Should I not ask? Are you gonna crawl into the table? My software never goes as planned or imagined. But is it a timing issue for the implementation or the user friendliness of the software that's proving the challenge, or all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I put that in for Jennifer because that's her favorite answer. All of the above.
Yeah. I think as far as the reviewer experience that you all have, I'm hoping, what I'm seeing at least, it seems to be very comparable to Zoom Grants. So if you like the way that Zoom Grants works, then I think you'll probably like this new system. There are some quirks that we're trying to work out as far as a lot of some of the back end reporting features are not as robust as we were hoping that they would be. And we were hoping that they would be much improved to what we have now through Zoom Grants, and I'm not sure they're going to. I don't. It's to be determined. We'll see. But I think as far as reviewer and applicant experience, I think it'll be a marginal improvement. So.
What was the driving force to change software?
Yeah, so we are consolidating our software, all the software we use through the housing division. Yeah, so it'll be the system we use for both grants management, but also our single family and multifamily loan.
Was it a competitive process?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a 5-year contract with Zoom Grants, and we were required to re-RFP that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best value or least price?
I don't actually know.
Ask the IT
Yeah, I'm
people
not
probably.
I wasn't involved in the contract negotiation, so.
Are they like a local statewide company?
No, but the entity that we went with was developed sort of with sort of housing and community development. And they work with a lot of local governments, and I think so there's a lot of opportunity there because and Jennifer is more familiar with them, but they're very experienced in sort of the housing and community development space.
Yeah, they're nationwide, and something like half of the entitlement communities or communities that get CDBG work with this company. So we're hopeful once we get it up and running.
Yeah.
What's the name? So
They're called Neighborly. Yeah, we sent it. Yeah.
And they call their clients neighbors. Isn't that cute? So now we're their neighbors.
Very.
Yeah, they've been great to work with as far as like getting everything set up. It's just we're trying to get through the reporting and invoicing stuff. It's been challenging, but we'll
And
get
also
there.
like navigating old data, because Zoom Grants is really helpful for us for like monitoring, because it's got all the invoicing and the organizational documents. And so ideally that will all move also.
Yeah.
Well, and any transition is just a bear.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be good from it's a much it seems more user friendly on the applicant and reviewer side, I think. So it's less, yeah. So I think you guys will like it. Any other questions? Well, back reports. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was it. Okay. So I sent an email earlier today. The county is starting these sort of what they're calling dialogues on race and equity program, and they're looking for participation from commission and advisory board throughout the county, across the county, and then focus on different issues. So if anyone is interested, you can look at the email that I sent today, reach out to me. I know Robert, you had responded. I'm happy to put you in touch with the group. They're being facilitated by an external partner. And yeah, they look really interesting. And I think it'd be a good opportunity for someone on our committee to participate if anyone's interested. So take a look at that. And the only other thing was we kind of talked about it a little bit, but we are being monitored in February by the Department of Social Services, Virginia Department of Social Services. So, look out for more information. Those who agreed to participate on the smaller interviews, I thank you, appreciate that. And yeah, they'll be here at the February meeting to observe. Jennifer, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that report? Okay. Laura, any chair report? Nothing for me. Member reports?
I have a question for you and for anybody else who's on a commission. The CSB has been having this great debate about the record of the meetings. And during COVID, the video and audio was posted on the web. And the CSB has stopped posting anything. They just post the minutes. And I was wondering what CDCAC does and what other groups do. Is it just the minutes that get posted now, or do you continue? There's some on the CSB believe that for transparency, the audio of the meeting should continue to be posted. Others are concerned about safety. They're concerned that they don't want their voice out there, or that it could be in some way misinterpreted. On the other hand, from that is anybody can come to our meetings and they can tape record it. And while they tape it, this came up because one of the members didn't even know it was happening. Their phone, as they were recording the meeting, was transcribing it and sending it out to all the attendees. And the transcript, well, pretty good. It was, I don't know, 80% accurate. And, you know, like a word not might not be in there. And so the question was, what is the record of the meeting? And so we're having this great debate. Personally, I think as long as you have the audio, you should post it. And so that it's, and that way, because not everybody's going to come to every meeting. And if 3 months from now you find out, oh, that issue was discussed at that meeting, being able to go back and listen to it. Or if somebody alleges that somebody said something at the meeting, you can go back and defend yourself.
So our practice has been to post for purposes of transparency. But our practice has been to post meeting videos online. Again, for the purposes of transparency, not everybody can go, but we're not legally required to do that. So if y'all hate that, we don't have to.
Yeah, when the county said,
Housing does too.
apparently when the county said you don't have to do that anymore, CSB just stopped. But I went on the CDCAC website and I couldn't find the recordings anymore. The website looked a little different, but the page looked a little
So
different.
the meeting recordings, go back to last year. So if you go, well, actually, I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. You're not gonna be able to see my screen there. Actually, I'm gonna share my screen. So yeah, so meeting recordings would be here on the left-hand side if it's available.
You back up one page just to see, because I didn't find that page, so I just.
Okay.
Yeah, the same is the case for housing too.
So if you go to view
Just
past
if you go back
meetings,
past meetings for ours too.
so
Yeah.
it's
It's the same.
organized by, it's like a drop-down box for each year, so.
Yeah.
But like, this is all sort of post-COVID and virtual world, like there were, prior to that, there were never recordings.
No.
Yeah.
But before 2020, we didn't record meetings because we didn't do hybrid.
And then we have it, I mean, now the CSB meeting is, because there's always somebody who's hybrid, they're recorded anyway. So I personally, I didn't see the problem with posting it.
So the element that there's Jennifer's cat. The element you were talking about as far as the taking notes, I think that's an AI
Oh, yeah.
like trans
Yep.
note taker.
This poor guy didn't even know his phone was doing it.
Yeah, that we've had that issue with in a lot of public meetings, but yeah, I think we're not supposed to let those note takers into a meeting anymore because of that issue. So yeah,
We had somebody from the county who came and just confirmed that, you know, anybody can come to one of the meetings and
Right.
videotape. They
right.
can videotape, they can audio it, then they can post it.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you think that any of the nonprofits when we're going through the presentations in the fall. You think any of them go back and listen to our comments afterwards? Because some of those, some of the conversations afterwards can get pretty, we're making comments about those organizations.
We
We don't-
don't record those.
We'll record the
Okay.
applicant presentation sessions, but I mean, if we're talking about the caper or the action plan, those are recorded and they're posted. Yeah, they're able to go back to those.
Yeah, it tend to make you think, what should we be saying?
Yeah, we don't record the applicant presentations. I mean, it's just as a courtesy to the applicants. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Take that back to the CSP. See what happens.
Okay.
Even says,
Hey, Jennifer. Anyone have any other comments or questions? Get out of here 14 minutes early. Look at us. So efficient. All right. Thanks all.
motion to
Happy New
adjourn.
Year. Thank you. Bye, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you.